here we are talking about the future of work. Any of you has any idea as to what has been happening at Government of India level and at Government of Maharashtra level regarding revolutionizing the rules and also revolutionizing and changing the basic tenets of the work that is and the workforce and the relations between the employers and the employees in the country and in the state? Anybody? I don't intend to just speak and you to listen. I intend for this session to be extremely participative. So that's why I'm asking you a simple question as, does any one of you have any? Upskilling is of course one of them, but I'm talking about the basic rules. Okay, let me go down to the roots of the entire issue. The point is that the relations between the employer and the employee, as well as the work and the laws which set the relation between the industrialist and the employee and any other organization, they are defined by a set of rules. These set of rules are codified as 29 acts. 29 acts are the ones which define the relationship and define everything, including your salaries, your HRs, your perks, the payments that come out to you, the work hours that are assigned to you, the assignments that are assigned to you, what are your liabilities and what are the liabilities of the employer who is giving you this kind of a work. And if you're an entrepreneur yourself, then what is your liability towards your employees and what the relationship between you and your employees there. Unfortunately, having mentioned 29 acts, unfortunate part of it is that most of these acts were enacted when? Can anybody take a wild guess? Most of the acts are from the pre-independence period. Pre-independence period. Not to say that they are obsolete, but yes, I would say that they require lots of changes. Lots of changes to upgrade them and bring them to the level of today's realities. A reality where you have to compete internationally, a reality where your products have to come up with certain international specifications. You need to have certifications not only from within the country but outside the country. And also you have to you are regulated by ILO in terms of employee relations because we are the signatories to their conventions. And secondly, you have to be part of, because India is a signatory to WTO, so most of the conventions and most of the rules which are regulated by WTO, we intend to follow them. So the modern reality and the laws, there is a slight bifurcation. And we need to put it to correction. That has been happening in the country for a long time. In the last 5 years, we all have struggled with it. Now you will say that we have worked fine up till now. Yes, we have. In Maharashtra particularly. I speak now only of Maharashtra state and not of the entire country. We have done pretty well. What's your take on this? Have we not? Do we really need a change now? Anyway, okay, let's take a vote. Do we need a change now? Please raise your hands, those who think that things need to change. Okay. So my answer would be, I'll sign an agreement of a fixed term employment with you. I'll give you the work. You give me the output. We work 3 days, you work 6 days, your problem. That's the future, yes. Yeah. Okay. So change is required. But let me tell you, I belong to a generation which probably you would think is 200 years behind you. But yes, I belong to a generation where I know what work ethic is. I'll give an example. My first posting was in Ichilkaranji. It's a small place in Kolhapur. And in that place, my experience has been that typically a guy would walk into my office. He would be wearing a white kurta pajama and Kolhapuri chappals and a Gandhi topi on his head. And he would come and give me papers. And he would tell me, Shasnache amok, I hope everybody's okay with Marathi. शासनाचे अमुक अमुक जीआरचे अमुक अमुक ओळी मधला हे जो वाक्य आहे ना याचा अर्थ हे निघतो तुमचं काय मत आहे and I'm like okay let me go to the GR first. That is how things used to happen. We think that we are the ones who know the rules or you are the ones who know the rules, and here is this man who doesn't even look educated and comes and talks to me and I ask him साहेब आपण कोण मी शेतकरी आहे. Okay, fair enough. And then I go back into his history and I find that this guy has been running a cooperative for 30 years, which runs into a multi-million-dollar export-oriented sugar factory. And This guy is worth something like 500 crores, and I'm talking about 25 years ago. And you think we are smart. That is the history of Maharashtra. I can tell you, we know all about work ethics and we know how businesses are run from long back. We are the ones who in 1964 started the cooperative movement. When the whole country awoke to the Green Revolution in 1971 because of a drought, we were already there. This is what Maharashtra has been all this while. And going on from there, now I will come, since we have done all of it, and believe me, when I was in the field, today I'm the secretary stationed in Bombay, but I was in the field for good 20 years of my life, and in the initial years, that was, I would say, in the beginning of 2000s, we would have people coming to us and say, we want to go to Israel. Please arrange a trip for us to Israel. And I would say, Israel मध्ये काय आहे? तुम्हाला कशाला जायचे आहे? Because we don't belong to that religious group and we have no affinity in that way to that group. And they would say, तुम्हाला माहिती आहे तिथे कोरडी शेती कशी करायचे? Dryland farming. They wanted to learn dryland farming from Israel. You think about technology transfer today? What do you think was that? So these are the kind of things that have happened. And you know what? I said की तुम्हाला कोरडी शेती करून करायचे तरी काय? They will say, ma'am, जर आमची शेती वाढली आणि क्वांटिटेटिव्हली वाढली तर आम्ही मार्केटमध्ये कॉम्पिटेटिव्ह होणार आहोत. You think Harvard invented the concept of economy of skills? We knew it, we practiced it long before all these terminologies came from all these major universities. So the work ethics and business, it is in our blood, it is in our roots. Now, what do we have to do? We only have to bring it in our laws. And we have to bring our laws to the level where all that we have been practicing and all that we need to do has to go ahead. And it has to be somehow encapsulated in such a way that we are competitive, not only within our country, but competitive out of our country also. So this is what the workforce in the future is going to be. Let me tell you some simple facts that we have been working out. You would know that Government of India has now passed a bill whereby all the labor laws, the 29 labor laws, as we know them today, are going to be encompassed in 4 codes. The act has been passed by Parliament, the lower house, the upper house, and also the presidential consent has been received. All that needs to be done is now for the promulgation of that act in our Gazette publication, and as it happens, all these 29 laws will go out of the window and the new 4 codes will come into existence. And once these codes come into existence, a new era of relationship between the employer and employee and a new era whereby the workforce will be completely modified will come into existence. Now, out of these 4 codes, I would rather like to mention 2 or 3 most important ones. One is the Social Security Code. Social Security Code is one whereby the code intends to extend the social security net as defined by ILO in 9 particular regions, 9 particular areas to all the workers. And when I talk about workers, the definition of worker as defined is the workers who are at the base level and the workers who are in the managerial roles. So in the initial part of your career, you would still be categorized as workers. And the senior managerial roles will move out of the category of workers, but the social security net covers all of you in one way or the other. Because you will be protected at different levels, as worker level, as managerial level, and at senior level. So Social Security Code, it is there on Government of Maharashtra website. I would advise all of you to actually go and read it. It is both in English and Marathi, whatever you are comfortable with. So the Social Security Code is the one that is going to be your basic mantra whenever you guys are going to be, when you take employment or you employ people. So Social Security Code is one of them. And the most important code is the IR code, Industrial Relations Code. Industrial Relation Code is quite in relevance to you because Industrial Relation Code, as of now, if there is a dispute between the employer and the employee, the case in the Industrial Code under the Industrial Disputes Act is placed. And then you have to fight your case out there. The Industrial Dispute Act is going out of the window, as I mentioned earlier. Now, what is coming in its place? So the Industrial Relations Act is one that defines how your relationship with your employer is going to be. One major change that has happened right now is that if you are working, even if you are You all understand the concept of body shopping. So you have one contractor in between who hires you and who lends you to some other organization where you do a piecemeal job or otherwise for the organization. This is an American concept, but is working in India also. But today, the law says that if something is wrong with you regarding your payment or your work conditions or otherwise, you can go and sue the principal employer. Who's the principal employer? Principal employer is the company who has body shopped for you and who has bought your potential for a certain period of time. This is the law which says today. But no, this is not going to be the future. The future is that whoever pays you, in your context, it's the contractor who is paying you. So he becomes your principal employer. So in fact, if any organization, say ABC organization, body shops for you from a certain person or a contractor who's registered with the government, either the state government or the central government, if he has lent you to that organization for a certain period of time, then he becomes your principal employer and not the parent organization. So anybody who dreams that you can get the backdoor entry into any organization, it's not going to work. That is what is the major change that has come in the IR code. So in a way, the employer-employee relationship is very clearly defined. Temporary relationship remain temporary, permanent relationship remain permanent. If you are directly employed by a company, then you become a member of that company and then you continue that way. But if you have been if you have come in through a contractor or otherwise, then no. You are not at the same level with the person who is actually directly employed by the company. Something that has not been clearly defined and has been a gray area till now is the fixed term employment. Whenever you work on a project, you are hired for the period of that project. For instance, in Navi Mumbai, you have this international airport coming up. So there is a team hired to take care of that project. So what the company does, they give a fixed term, say 3 years or a 4 years work order and sign an agreement for the employees who are working on that project. The project gets over, the relationship terminates, everything is okay. Not by today's law. Today's law says that if you have worked for an organization for more than 140 days, then you have some claim on the organization. But when the new laws come in, when the new codes come in, and you have signed a fixed term agreement, then it is very clearly defined when you stop working, what is the quantum of work you do, what are your payment terms, which you agree. Then you cannot go and complain कि ये कम है या ये ज़्यादा है. Once you have agreed, you have agreed. It's watertight. And there is a termination clause when your term comes to an end. Then it's like happy goodbye, both the sides. So fixed term employment, as it happens in US and European countries, will be a part of our system. Now, the question will be that a lot of companies will never employ the permanent employees and they will work on fixed term employment. But yes, but it's a two-way traffic. If you guys have a fixed term employment, then you work on a project, you develop certain intrinsic value, you learn, you have experience, and you have intrinsic knowledge of the company. It's a two-way traffic in the sense you once your fixed term employment is over, your term is over, say 3 years, 4 years, you walk away with all that information in your head. Company can afford to lose you? Okay, if the company can afford to lose you, they will let you go. If not, they'll try to retain you. So it's a two-way traffic. Every 4 years, you have a bargaining power. If you're good enough, they'll want to retain you. If you're not good enough, I'm sorry. So fixed-term employment is the future. And all of you have to remember that that's where we belong. These are the things that the IR code is talking about. The employer-employee relationship have been completely twisted on their head. And now new kind of things, especially what is happening in US, Europe, what is prescribed by WTO, all those things are coming up. So this was basically the IR code, the social security code. And one thing that may not be very relevant to you because most of you look from the IT and other sectors, but there is also an industrial safety code. I will not go in details about the industrial safety code because it is very technical. But at the end of the day, I would request that in case you are working on some floor line company or if you are working for production of and if you are involved in some kind of core activity of manufacturing, then industrial safety code is of great, great relevance to you. Please go and read it. It's long, cumbersome, more than 400 pages. But yes, each and every line and each and every word, believe me, has been debated for months together before we were actually able to do it. It has taken me 2 years to define the code. 2 years. From the basic draft to the final draft has taken me 2 years. So you can imagine the kind of effort we have put into it. So it is something that needs to be identified, needs to be read very, very carefully. Defines your rights, your liabilities, and if you are a manager, in a company where where you're supposed to do it, let me tell you very clearly, the responsibility of the owner of the company and the responsibility of the manager who's managing the floor shop, they are also very clearly well defined. If you're not aware of it, I'm sorry, the law is not going to listen that you were not aware of the things. The relationships, the responsibilities, the roles are very clearly defined, and it is in black and white. Nothing is in the gray area right now. So industrial safety is also one of the very important things. I think all of you should need to go through it, even if you're not involved in that profession, but still, I would think that you would need to go it. More things that have come as of now, as the world has evolved, there have been number of things like aggregator jobs, things like Amazon. They were unidentified. You never knew how to put them, where to put them. They have also found a clear-cut place in law. How the aggregators are, how they have to treat their people, how this business is going to be run, it is very clearly defined in the Industrial Relations Act and the Industrial Safety Act. There are various new professions which have come up, the IT profession, the individuals, the freelancers, the ones who are hired for a certain period of time. All these relations between the employer and the employer, even the freelancing people who don't really have a boss but work for themselves, what are the work ethics and work laws applying to them? They have also been clearly defined in these laws. If I were to describe the laws, I would be here the whole day. But I am telling you that this is something that you need to educate yourself upon. If you're self-employed, good for you. But you are not in that gray area anymore where you can get away with anything. The law now very clearly specifies as if you're self-employed, then what are your liabilities? How do you access the market? What is your liability in the open market where you're ready to sell your product or your services? Clearly defined. The service sector, which was somehow out of the ambit of the industrial laws, has now been very clearly built into the laws. So these are the few things that I have to describe. One more thing which has been the learning from the COVID, and it was more out of necessity, is the definition of the workspaces. Shared workspaces, partial workspaces, and work from home kind of a culture. Work from home, we learned it the hard way through the COVID thing. But now what is work from home, and what are the shared workspaces, and what are the ethics and the rules governing the workspaces? These have also come in the new laws. What are the financial implications of the startup? Do you have certain rules and regulations which are relaxed in terms of startups? These are also very well-defined areas which, it would be, if I would say, they are very useful for you to take up. And most importantly are the gap between the aspirations of the employees and the aspirations of the employers. We have tried to match both of them in the context of not only today, but emerging trade practices across the world in the next 20 years. 20 years is a long time. We will be learning all the way. But what is required and what is anticipated today at the international forums in terms of ILO, in terms of other international organizations, and even the universities who specialize in work area and work ethics spaces, whatever they have to say have been built into it. Government of India has paid a considerable attention to it and covered not only the conventional areas like mining and ports and textiles and automobiles and all that. It has also taken up the new trade practices and the new trades, especially the service sector components which have been emerging. Government of Maharashtra specializes in that. We have taken that up. So I really, really urge you that the new rules which have come up and which will be implemented in a very short duration of time, and by short duration of time, I would say before the middle of this year. So we are almost there. So I would request all of you to please have a look at these rules. They are already there on Government of Maharashtra website. Go through them, learn from them. And now we have gone to the cabinet. We have referred them to Government of India. They will be going to Niti Aayog for the final verification and final checking. So if you have anything to say even now, if you have anything to say, we would be ready to listen to you, because till the time the final seal is put on these codes, they are still open to suggestions and amendments. Lot of space, which was the gray area, lot of space which got developed in the last 40 years in business sector has been covered. So if there is anything you would want to ask me or you would want me to explain in detail, I would be more than happy to do that right now. As I said, that I want it to be more interactive. If you have anything to say, please, I'm more than ready to listen to you. Yeah, that gentleman raised the hand first. Yes, sir.
Absolutely mind-blowing, where you have moved mountains. You are saying the laws were turned on its head to match the UK-US standard. unheard of in this country.
I am not a great fan of UK-US standard. What I am saying is we are matching the Indian reality. I believe India is the best. People have to learn from us.
Fantastic. Madam, my question is, when this bill will be put up, do you have any visibility on when this will come into force?
I've already told you that the bill has been approved. You see, for any law to be set in the background and any new law to come into existence, it has to be passed to the parliament. Labor laws are in the they belong to the concurrent list of. Sorry for this lesson in civics, but this belongs to the concurrent list, which basically means that the state and the center both have a right to make laws and amend their laws regarding the labor sector. The government of India has already approved of these codes. They have been approved by the parliament from the lower house and the upper house. They have also received the presidential consent, which means the laws are already there. They have referred it to the states. 2/3 of the state have to ratify them. Maharashtra and lot of 16 other states have already ratified them. They have gone to the government of India. Now, the only thing that has to be done is they have to be promulgated from a certain date. So only that date has to be now signified, which I see happening by the middle of this year.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
But when does this change come into effect, and how much of time will you give companies to get ready for this? Let's say if it gets signed on 1st of June, is it?
You see, you know that the codes have been out in the open from 21. They have been floating from 21. And Government of Maharashtra is the first government that has already sent it to Government of India. So they have been out in the open from 21. So maximum 3 months for making these humongous changes. But it is going to be difficult for you, for us. We recognize that, but we learn as we go along. And there is no shortcut to it. We have to rip the Band-Aid at one go.
Hello, ma'am. So, ma'am, do you see there is hourly remuneration, in future in our country? Because a lot of Western countries follows hourly remuneration, wages.
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Hourly wages, hourly remuneration.
Only if you are on a daily this thing, then hourly remuneration. But then it can be a term of your fixed term employment if you're going for it. But if you're a permanent employee, I don't look at hourly wages. If you are on contractual obligation, or if you are on a fixed term, then I think hourly wages would make sense. But in India, hourly wages doesn't really make sense. However, you can experiment with it. Nothing prevents you from doing it. I would think, in my personal opinion, I think hourly wages, as against in US and all, would be detrimental to India, because the concomitant factors that affect the performance and the result of an individual is a circumstantial issue also. Hourly is not really in our favor, but if you want to experiment, the law doesn't prevent you from doing that.
Thank you.
So, ma'am, you spoke about the fixed term employment, and it is more or less on the similar lines of Agniveer scheme, which was largely opposed by the youth in India. After 4 years, or whatever the fixed term is, if the employee's performance doesn't match the expectations of the employer, is Government of India or Government of Maharashtra doing something to train those employees who are not meeting the expectations, or how is it?
Yes, it is quite possible to do that, because we have these constant programs for the skill development. So the person will have to make an effort to match his skill set with the kind of training that he wants to undergo. But he will have to make an effort. And fixed term employee, just because he has been left out of the fixed term employment and because he has not been renewed in his contract, cannot be the only qualification to be a part of the skill development program. Thank you so much for bearing with me and listening to me. It's been great talking to you. Thank you.